There is a magical operation of maximum importance. The initiation of a new aeon. When it becomes necessary to utter a word, the whole planet must be bathed in blood.
Call your dogs! They can feast on your corpses!
For fulfilling the circular mallet of the Satafan, you are hereby damned. The pleasures of the flesh are no longer yours. You have but one purpose, damned warrior. You will serve us for eternity.
The tavern's closing. Best be on your way, stranger. What? No mug of ale for a weary traveller from distant Corhagen? I can reward you well, for I am of noble blood. I stay open for no man in these dark times. Things come with the night that no sane man would welcome. And so I left, cold of heart and soul, forced to the road and the long, bitter night. That's him! They Victus! They Victus! Victus! End it! Now!
They Victus, suffering to the conquered. Ironic that now I was the one suffering. Not anything as pedestrian as physical pain, rather the cruel jab of impotent anger. The hunger for revenge. I didn't care if I was in heaven or hell. All I wanted was to kill my assassins. Sometimes you get what you wish for. The necromancer Mortanius offered me a chance for vengeance, and like a fool, I jumped at his offer without considering the cost. Nothing is free, not even revenge.
You will have the blood you hunger for.
I awoke to the pain of a new existence, in a dank womb of darkness and decay.
So this is just a tutorial dungeon. It teaches you about spells and Kain's blood drinking habits. So I'm just gonna fast forward this one.
The sanctuary spell enables me to travel to my crypt, where the soil of my grave provides me respite. I often resort to this when I am weak and need nourishment.
Oh, Nanami. I think you have run into the wrong game.
Hunger and weakness are no bar to vengeance's call. I would find my slayers and send them back whence I came. What trickery is this?
If we put you down once, we could do it again.
Their sneering faces were forever etched upon my memory. I had crossed death for this moment. My mind was empty save for one thought. I would kill. There is no greater release than that from vengeance sated. With my assassins dead, my quest was over.
'Tis not over, Kain. These fools were merely the instruments of your murder, not the cause. Look to their masters, look to the pillars, and gain way to the fortress of the mind.
This was where the bloody deed of my murder took place. I would not be kind to the denizens that lurk here. They would taste my steel, and I their blood.
Time for some killing.
Bay Victor! The necromancer had offered me no warning as to what my resurrection would entail, and yet I must confess in my haste I had not sought one. Was his gift a curse? I would seek the pillars for an answer. Night dawns, and with it the vampire grows stronger. The pillars of Nosgoth. Even in life, few sights have moved me such as this. I marvel that such beauty should grace our dying world.
Nopraptor, your madness has shattered our dreams and blinded you.
Keep your distance, or I'll send you back to hell, spirit!
There is nothing left of me to fear, vampire. I'm only a shadow of my former self, Ari, the balance of the Circle of Nine. Even so, I can provide the answers you seek.
I seek only a cure.
There is no cure for death, only release. You must destroy the sorcery that is now poisoning Nosgoth. Only then will you realize peace. The Nine of the Protectors of Hope were sworn to use their powers to preserve our world. Now these pillars have been corrupted by a traitor. My murder at the hands of this beast drove my love Nopraptor mad. Now he spreads misery and pain among the Circle, crumbling the very foundation of Nosgoth. You must restore balance. You must right the pillars of Nosgoth.
I care not for the fate of this world.
Then for yourself, Kain. Beware the unspoken.
Nupraptor, with his blind act of vengeance, threatened to destroy all of Nosgoth. Each circle member was bonded to the pillar he served. The pillars reflected the mental state of their servants, and as the minds of the circle degenerated and descended farther into dementia, the pillars crumbled. To restore them, each member of the circle had to die, and the artifact that served as their link to the pillar had to be returned. Only when all the pillars were restored did Ariel claim my curse would end. And so, my hunt for Nupraptor began. The Pillar of the Mind, protected by the mentalist Nupraptor. The Pillar of Dimension, protected by the planar Azimuth. The Pillar of Conflict, protected by the Paladin Malik. The Pillar of Nature, protected by the Druid Bane. The Pillar of Energy, protected by the Energist Dejul. The Pillar of Time, protected by the Time Streamer Mobius. The Pillar of States, protected by the Alchemist Anacroth. The Pillar of Death, protected by the Necromancer Mortanius. The Pillar of Balance, once defended by Ariel. The pillars choose their own. These beacons serve as landmarks during my flights in bat form. Once I have committed their locations to memory, I can always return. In bat form, I can travel great distances with ease. From my vantage in the heavens, no region of Nosgoth is forbidden to me. As daylight chases darkness, the vampire's power wanes.
Bay Victor!
One must be wary in dealing with the spirit forges. The wraiths and shades that inhabit them offer items beyond mortal dreams in exchange for a sampling of your blood. The wraithsmiths forge their items with forfeit souls.
Shed your blood for me, and these artifacts will be yours. Imagine what power you could wield. So, you come to the Spirit Forge for help, do you, vampire? Trade your secrets for the blood of the dead, I will.
So this will be the first dungeon that we're commentating, and why I chose this dungeon is because you get your first offensive spell here, and also the enemies. The enemies are like these demon magical ranged enemies. They shoot homing magical projectiles, and right now I just killed two of them off screen, but they will be much harder in the next room. So here you get the first energy bolt, and this will be the bread and butter of Legacy of Kain Blood Omen, because you want to use it at all times when you have magic, which is the blue meter on the right side of the spell icon in the middle. So going back to what I said about the enemy's projectiles, they're magic and they're homing, which makes them very hard to dodge in an open area. But in this specific area, they're still pretty hard to dodge, even if you have like pillars to cover behind, because of how awkward it is to throw a spell. Because you have to be stationary when you throw a spell, so you can't move around and shoot. You have to stay put and then press the spell button. There's also a hazard, which is the spike holes, that you can see on this screen that appears beside the prisoner. The spike hitboxes can be tricky, especially when you get to later dungeons, when there is also projectiles coming at you, and if they hit you, you will probably be bumping onto the spikes. And it can either kill you or instantly, or it will take a chunk of your health. So that's something to watch out for.
Please, help me, kind sir!
Spells in Legacy of Kain are varied. There are so many different variations of spells, and all of them are a lot of fun to use, because most of the stuff is very good and deals a lot of damage, a lot of AoE damage, and that's the good part about the game. There's not really any spell that feels bad to use. All the spells feels pretty good to use, except for the first spell, the Sanctuary spell. It's like a town portal, if you have played Warcraft 3 or Dota. It teleports you back to the starting crypt, but that one is trash, because you don't have to go back there ever again, so there's literally no use for it, that I know. Alright, that's the end of the dungeon, but I'll be back when we reach Nupraptor's retreat.
The village of Nachtholm was typical of Nosgoth peasantry. Yet amidst the farmers and smithies of the quiet country life prowled brigands and cut-purses.
A few moments later.
The gaping maw of Nupraptor's retreat rained upon Nosgoth all his pain and misery. The disease begged to be cleansed. The mentalist Nupraptor was renowned through Nosgoth for his tricks of the mind, telepathy, and telekinesis. Pilgrims traveled from all across the land seeking the comfort of his lies. I sought not his wisdom, but his life.
You dare intrude upon my sanctuary? Can I not mourn in peace? Leave. Leave and let my solitude be complete.
Please, help me, kind sir!
You are lost, all hope. You cannot see my plight, we have so shut your eyes.
The cretin squandered life and left it seeping on the floor. Such waste was a travesty. Perhaps Nupraptor needed to be taught a lesson as to the value of blood.
Alright, we finally reached Nupraptor's retreat, and this specific room we're inside right now is basically a trial room, and what you need to do in order to progress is to clear 4 different rooms that represent 4 different trials. So, in this first room, they want you to use the werewolf state to jump between spike caps. And this is one of the dungeons I was talking about earlier, where the hitbox of the spikes can be very annoying. Also, another thing is the fireball projectiles in this room. They're ass. They can push you right into the spikes, which will make you lose a lot of health, because you will be bumping around the spikes, which you can see right here. when I jump into the spikes with the in the werewolf state, which is not a good idea because you get a much bigger hitbox when you're a werewolf. And what I mean by that is that I should have just used the vampire state because it has a smaller hitbox, and then I probably would have made it through a lot easier, which I realized at the end of the room. Alright, second room. Not much to say about this one, other than find switches and bitches. On another note, I just want to say that Kain is a badass, and I would be so bold to say that his voice is as distinct as Duke Nukem, Solid Snake, and even Caleb from Blood. Another thing that's real sad is that we haven't gotten any new Legacy of Kain game since Legacy of Kain Defiance, which was released in 2003. With that said, this is my very first Legacy of Kain game, and I had a blast playing through this. If you haven't played this before, you really should. So, room 3 seemed like it would be really easy. I mean, when you walk into a room, you see a painting, you go forward to it, you open the door, and there's the exit, which takes you to the other half of the trial. Once you get into the second half of the trial, I made a major mistake, which was using the light spell. It lights up the whole dungeon, and you need the shadows in order to solve the puzzle. Or the puzzle, it's more than like a frustrating obstacle. And the solution to this puzzle is that in one of the corners there's a specific tile which you need to trigger in order to light up the next path, and then the next path, and then the next path until you reach the exit. So once you know it, it's really not difficult. It just took time because I had to wait until the spell weared off. Alright, so the fourth and final room. This room, there's not much to say at all. This is where you literally walk forward, kill some enemies, and then exit. And then you're done. And so we have arrived at the first boss of the game. I will not be commentating the fight, because it's very straightforward, and there's literally nothing to say about it. So I'll let you watch it in peace.
Have you come to fail the circle once more? Leave, Paladin. I do not need your protection. Come, Kain. Come, share my pain.
So, this was the mentalist Nupraptor, this broken, pathetic little man. Yet crippled as he was, he would not yield without battle. Very well, old fool. If it is death you seek, I will not deny you.
You are lost beyond all hope. You cannot see my plight without so shut you. What will become of love? I see only damnation.
Save Victor! Perhaps the head of her beloved will convince Ariel that I have accomplished my task. I placed Nupraptor's head before the Pillar of the Mind, and watched on as it dissolved into the stone. The pillar accepted its offering. Thus, it was restored. Nupraptor was but the genesis. Forever tainted by his madness, the circle was beyond redemption. For them, absolution lay only in death. In me, they would find their deliverance. But first I had to defeat their shepherd. Malek, defender of the Nine, lay in a keep to the far north, past Vassabunt. It was time for me to test the wrath of the Pillar of Conflict.
Death in the circle breathes life to the pillars. For every pillar there is a token. Only with these shall they be restored. But to reach a warrior, you must first breach his ward. Find Malak and destroy him. Only then will the circle fall.
Alright, that's the end of the first part, and what comes next is a summary of all the weapons and spells I picked up during this first part. Some may or may not have been included in this video, but the reason why I decided to showcase this is because I want to let all of you experience how badass Kain's voice is when he introduces each weapons and spells. So stay a while and listen.
The Sanctuary spell enables me to travel to my crypt where the soil of my grave provides me respite. I often resort to this when I am weak and need nourishment. The Heart of Darkness. Reputed to have been ripped from the chest of the greatest vampire to have ever existed, Janos Audron, the Heart of Darkness restores vampiric unlife. Life is precious, Janos discovered, as it was torn, throbbing and bleeding from his own body. Flay. These curious devices hurl bolts of whirling energy and eviscerate my human enemies by stripping ragged flesh from blood-stained bone. In bat form, I can travel great distances with ease. From my vantage in the heavens, no region of Nosgoth is forbidden to me. Light. While it is true that natural light weakens a vampire, magical light can have many uses indeed. My lupine form enables me to move like lightning and leap over obstacles barring my path, but the guise of the wolf brings with it its own kind of hunger and rage. Energy Bolt. The Energy Bolt employs magical force in its rawest form, a messy spell, but a potent one nonetheless. Implode. Of all the methods I employ, this is perhaps the cruelest, causing my victim's body to shrink on itself, crushing bones and rupturing organs till the pressure inside bursts the sack of fleshy skin, spraying its contents for all to see. There are benefits to traveling beneath a human guise. The threat to my person is lessened, and much information can be gleaned. However, the illusion is flimsy, and any act of aggression on my part can break the spell. Slow time. At times, my magic extends into very exotic disciplines, such as the manipulation of time. I am able to slow time down so I can move about, quick as a wolf, while all others move as though they were mired in mud. Font of Putrescence. Should this object strike an enemy, rot and decay would instantly eat their flesh and leave only a pool of blood and tissue. For a time after, the toxins are still active and therefore lethal to the touch. Energy Bank. When conjured, the Energy Bank permits me access to mass amounts of magical energy for a brief period of time. However, when the moment passes, I will be drained of all magic, unable to cast even the simplest of spells. Spiked Mace. The mace is amongst my most useful of weapons, for it merely stuns my victims, allowing me ample time to feed.